I haven't done an early morning video in so long, and it feels kind of strange to me. But I just want to get into this video because, for example, when you say the wrong thing, you think sometimes that you do something, you think it's so cool, and then when you're talking to people, all of a sudden, they are more embarrassed because you feel embarrassed as well. That's really the first thing that I'm going to say. For example, how sometimes you're embarrassed. It's only embarrassing as much as you think it is. So when you make a mistake, where sometimes you stumble on your words, sometimes you do something and you do something so great for someone and they only reject you in front of other people. Because other people are seeing you fail, that's why you start to be embarrassed, because you want to start succeeding in front of other people. You want to give off the impression to other people that you're put together, that you're successful. You don't want to fail in front of other people. So basically, you don't want to fail in front of other people because it's humiliating. And you have to realize that you have to fail first. Because when people say failure, or they say fail, it's first attempt in learning. And most of the time when you're trying something new, it's because it's your first attempt and you haven't done it before. And that's the most important thing when you're trying something new, because it gets you out of your comfort zone. I want to make sure this video helps you in some way, and I'm not just going to talk about random stuff. I'm going to try and say it so that it makes sense to you and it makes sense to me. But let me get into this video because I have 2 or 3 embarrassing stories to tell you. In this video in particular, I want to be hilarious wherever I can. So the first embarrassing story that I'm going to say is this. So what happened in my school, back in primary school, I'm going to start off with primary school and then I'll go into secondary school, because that's when I felt the most embarrassed. And that's why I didn't tell anyone at the time when this happened. But I'm telling you now because I'm no longer embarrassed to actually tell you. So when it came to my primary school, because I was really fast, I'm just assuming that I got selected for a football team because I could run really fast. But then other people in my primary school, they were much better than me at football. Let me just say this, because back in primary school, we had a football game and we had to compete against other schools. And what happened, because we were taking a coach there, I believe we took a coach or like a mini bus, and it did fit everyone on there. And this story is very short, but hear me out when I say this, because, for example, I was selected to join my primary school football team. I wasn't just sitting there just watching the game, I was actually being substituted on to play football. For those of you that like football, I'm going to tell you the result. And what happened, our school team, we lost 4-0 to like another school, and this was back in primary school. And you're probably thinking that our team was really bad, but you have to think about it. The strategy is what was really bad, not necessarily the players. So that's why whenever you see your football team losing, it's sometimes not even the players, but it's mostly the strategy. And let me just continue on because I'm just getting sidetracked, and that's not really the main point of this story. So the main point of this story is because what happened, all of us took the bus, we arrived at a football pitch to like the opposite school's team, and we were waiting in their field. So the reason why I'm saying this is because my parents and my family, what happened, as soon as we got off the bus, we technically saw them. Everyone in my school saw what my parents looked like. Everyone in my school saw what my family looked like. And this is me a few years ago, it's not me right now. You can imagine me as a little child being so embarrassed because I didn't want to even go up to my parents and hug them. That's how embarrassed I was. But they were like saying my name, they were saying Temi. And at the time I felt so embarrassed, but right now I feel so amazed about that, because the reason why I say this story is because some people, including myself, were so embarrassed that their parents were there to support them. And you wouldn't want it to be that you have parents that don't support you at all. So that's what I'm going to say, because at the time I was so embarrassed. As soon as we got off the bus, everyone in my school, we were all like hanging out as a group before our football match. And then what happens, as soon as we got off the bus, we technically saw my parents and my family. And that's why I was so embarrassed, because it's because no one else's family was there at the time. It took a while for everyone else's family to come along. But my parents, they just came straight away, and as soon as I got off the bus, I saw them. You need to realize that people that you think you're trying to impress and people that you're kind of thinking is cool, you have to realize that it may be cool in the moment, but they won't be with you in every single moment. And that's really one of my first stories that I wanted to tell you. And it's a very short story, it's not too long. So what I'm trying to say, the reason why our team lost 4-0 is because what happened, for the first 2 goals, the other team were performing better. And then what happened, it was like the third goal. It was like the third goal, and the girl scored her own goal, making it 3-0. And then what happened? I think our team lost momentum. And then that's what happens when you start to lose momentum. You start to lose your motivation. You don't try as hard. And then what happened? They scored 4-0. And I'm so glad that the whistle blew, because it could have been way more than 4-0. What I wanted to say as the main takeaway, when you have your family or people that actually support you, you need to start appreciating them more. I'm trying to tell you stories before I actually get into the video. So the next story that I'm going to say is about what happened in secondary school. But the funny thing is, this happened in primary school as well. So what happened, I don't know why, but I always got chased by someone that was taller than me. And you're probably laughing at me like, why can't I just like be the one that's chasing them rather than them chasing me? I'm going to say the next part of my story. So what happened, this is another part of my story, and it's not the same story as the football one, but it's a completely different one. You know how you're playing a game of tag and you're the one that's being chased and you don't want the person to catch up to you? What happened, I always got chased when it was always muddy on the field, and I was always running on grass whenever it's so muddy. I'm going to say this, so I was always chased by someone that was taller than me, and the field was always muddy. And I'm guessing you know where this is going, but for those of you that don't know where it's going, you might as well watch and find out. I was always chased by someone in the field, and it was always so muddy. And it's similar to like the background that you see right now, where there's always grass, but it's like wet grass where it's muddy. So instead of running on wet grass, I should have ran on dry pavement. But let me just carry on. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because what happened, not only in primary school, but in secondary school, I fell on mud. And what happened, my trousers were so black, but then afterwards, when I fell in the mud, there was always mud all over my trousers. And in primary school, I probably did the same thing as I did in secondary school. And I lied to my parents saying that that person pushed me. I fell over after once the person fell over. So the funny thing that I'm going to say, the person that always chased me fell over first. I don't remember what happened much in primary school, but what happened, there's a thing called golden time. And this was something that you would do after school once you've worked so hard, that on a Friday, it was mostly on a Friday where you get to play games, that if you actually read your books and you got your book signed by like your parents, then you can start to like play games after school. And you will do indoor football, you'll do sports outside, and that used to excite me in primary school. And I wanted to say as well that when it came to really primary school, I used to lie about being pushed over when I knew that I fell over in the grass by myself. And I know it's a white lie and it's a small lie, but you have to realize that when you have a habit of lying, you start to lie to every single person that you're talking to. I want you to learn this valuable lesson. A relationship cannot be built on lies. And you don't want it to be that you're lying to yourself, you're lying to other people, because other people don't trust you, but then you don't trust yourself because you don't do the things that you said you're going to do. So that's what I'm going to say when it comes to at least telling the truth and realizing that when you do something embarrassing, to just tell the truth. Because you know how, for example, I was being chased by people, they fell over, and then I laughed at them, only for me to fall over afterwards. And I used to lie to my parents saying that I got pushed. And I know it's a white lie, and I know that I don't have to tell people this, but I'm telling people this so that you don't lie. Because you don't want to lie to people saying that you're good at something when you're not, and you don't want to lie to yourself saying that you're going to get something done when you don't. So you have to realize, this video may be short, but I just wanted to make this point to you, that you need to start trusting yourself more. And when you feel embarrassed, it's because you actually care about things and you care about people. Because if you're going to pretend that you don't care about anyone and you pretend that you don't care about anything, and other people wouldn't want to be around you anyway, because you take things too seriously. So that's what I'm going to say about being embarrassed, because it's only embarrassing as much as you think it is. And people have their own lives, so they're going to forget about it the day after. And sometimes it may be a whole week, but people will forget about it. And you don't want it to be that because you're so embarrassed that you stop trying anything at all. The last thing that I'm going to say before I go, you know, for example, when you do something embarrassing or you say something embarrassing, you need to start thinking about it. Who's actually here for you after that? Because the people that are here for you after once you embarrass yourself are the real people. No matter what you do, there's always someone that will care for you. And no matter how embarrassing you may think something is, the real people that stay with you is the most important. because that's how you know that someone's real for you and someone's actually here for you. So that's all I got to say. If you like this video, you can like, comment and subscribe. And you can subscribe to see all my other videos. And until then, I'll see you again soon.